get started here today, I went ahead and opened my new document. And as a reminder, that document is 11 inches wide, 8.5 inches high. It's a resolution of 300, and it is in grayscale. I've also opened my two images that I'm working with. So I have a picture here, a profile picture of Drew Barrymore, and I have a dragonfly. These do not need to be in grayscale. You'll notice my Drew Barrymore picture, if you look up here, it is in grayscale, but the dragonfly is not. It's an RGB color, and I will be converting that as I'm working today. All right, so let me start with Drew Barrymore. The first step I want to do is I want to get her removed from the background. Since she's on a white background, this shouldn't take too long. I'll just go ahead and start with my magic wand tool. Select the background. Then I'm going to select inverse, and I want to go into select and mask. So even if you have a white background, you should usually go into select and mask so that you can see what you're actually getting from this. And I think on black I can really kind of see what's going on with these edges. So since they're pretty jaggedy around here, I'm going to go ahead and turn on my edge selection Smart Radius, and I'll move that up to maybe about 10. Okay, so that softened up some of those harsher edges, and maybe smooth it. I want to keep smooth down though, so maybe we'll go 6 on that, and maybe even feather a little bit, like 0.9. Okay, so this is an interesting image because it is just kind of has a lot of her kind of cut out anyway, and that's okay for this purpose because it is a silhouette project, so it's going to end up looking okay. And then you need to choose how you want to output. If you feel like you want to do more edge editing once you get into Photoshop, output to a new layer with a layer mask so that you can work on that layer mask. But I feel pretty happy with this. I don't think I want to do any more editing, so I'm going to just go ahead and output to a new layer and say OK. Okay, so now I'm going to Command A to select everything on that layer. Command C to copy it, go to my new file, and Command V to paste. Command T to transform, and I want to move her down to the bottom. Remember not to have anybody floating off of the edges, either the bottom or the side. So if you have an image where your subject is cut off, you need to place them appropriately. Okay, and then size it by holding Shift and from the corner only. Okay, and as I made her larger, I can see she's still slightly floating off the edge, so I'm going to use the down arrow to nudge her down. I don't want any space right there. Okay, that looks good. Maybe just slightly bigger and accept. All right, so since I just made a change, I'm going to, well, let me name my layer first. So I'll call that Profile. You could call it Profile. You could name it the name of the person or subject or whatever it is. By the way, these profile pictures where somebody's looking to the side tend to work better for this, especially if you're overlaying on the person. If they're a front view, it's a little bit more challenging. I'm not saying you can't do it, it just makes a little bit more of a challenge. Okay, so now that I have that named, I'm going to File, Save. Make sure I'm in my folder. And I'll go ahead and save it right there. I'll make my silhouette folder in a little bit. Okay, so that part is done. I'm going to go ahead and I'll actually save this as well, just in case I need to get back to that one where she's removed from the background. All right, and now working with my dragonfly. So again, I have somewhat of a white background, but I do have this edge out here, so I may need to do some work fixing this, but I'm going to go ahead and start by grabbing that background and then selecting inverse. But then I'm going to need to go to my quick selection tool to clean some of this stuff up. So I'm going to do that really quick. Okay, now that I have this guy done, I am actually going to change the mode to grayscale. So I'll go ahead and do that ahead of time. I'm going to say don't merge, and yes, I do want to discard that color information. Now, another thing you can do before you move this into your project file is you can play with the contrast and brightness. A lot of times it helps to increase the contrast on these images for the silhouette project, just so you get a lot of nice detail in here. And you could increase the brightness a little bit too if you wanted to. I could have done that on my silhouette as well. On that one, I didn't really feel like it needed it, but you might look at that on both of them. So if you feel like it's got a lot of gray going on, or it's just kind of fuzzy and doesn't have a lot of really strong hard details, then increase the contrast and play around with the brightness as you desire. Okay, so Command A, Command C, Command V, and I'm going to move that to the top layer for a moment so I can see what I'm doing. I will name that Dragonfly right away. And Command T, and then just go ahead and play with it, size it, place it. And get it where you think you'd like it to go. Okay, once you have it placed where you like it, you're going to switch the layers. So you want your profile or your subject on top and the one that's overlaying on the bottom. And you want to change the blending mode to multiply. So on my profile, I'm changing the blending mode to multiply. You can also play around with the opacity. So I'm going to set her at about 80. And then on the Dragonfly, keep your blending mode on normal, but you can also play around with the opacity on that. So I'll go a little bit higher with the Dragonfly. I think I'll put that one on 90. Okay, and that's just a preference thing, whatever you want those opacities to be. So at this point, I'm going to File, Save. And next time we'll be looking at putting on that gritty background, that gritty texture. And I'll be also giving you a few options about how you'd like this to look. So you remember that sometimes depending on how you pull your gradient on the gritty texture, sometimes the background looks a little bit different, or just what's showing up. Some things might show up more, some things might show up less. So there are a lot of ways to approach this artistically, and you're going to have a lot of freedom in that. I'll also be going over your extra credit opportunity, which is to on your same project, now the extra credit this time is going to be pretty easy because on your same project, you are just creating a different effect. So you don't have to do a new project from scratch. You're just going to use one project and show it 3 different ways.